behind the scenes of Esther, a musical adventure, part 3. So Act 1 of the musical ends with Queen Esther deciding to go talk to King Xerxes. She's going to try to talk him out of killing all of the Jewish people. So how does Act 2 begin?
Well, Act 2 begins with a pretty funny interaction between King Xerxes and Haman.
So one night, King Xerxes has trouble sleeping. Maybe it's indigestion or something. And back then, they didn't have apps like Calm or Headspace to help you fall asleep. So instead, King Xerxes has his attendants bring him out the record book. And they read it to him like a bedtime story.
The record book was kind of like a history book that maybe you would get at school. It documented all the events that happened in Persia.
And one of these events was when Mordecai saved the king from being killed by those 2 guards. Remember that?
I told you that would become important later, but you didn't believe me. Well, I don't know, maybe you did.
So when King Xerxes remembers how Mordecai saved his life, he wants to do something to honor him, but he doesn't know what to do because, well, as we've seen, he doesn't really think for himself too much. So, who do you think he asks?
The next morning, Haman goes into the throne room, and King Xerxes says,
Hey, I need your help. There's this man I think is awesome. What should I do to honor him?
And Haman has no idea. The man the king is talking about is Mordecai.
Haman has such a big ego that he thinks the king is talking about him. And that's when Haman starts singing the song, The Man You Think Is Awesome.
The Man You Think Is Awesome was a really fun song to write because he really thinks he's the man the king wants to honor.
Bring down some fancy clothes from high atop your shelf. Have him dressed from head to toe the way that you would dress yourself. And don't forget the crown, the most important thing. Place the crown upon his head just like you would do for a king. Make sure those rubies are shining bright like a cherry blossom. That's what you've got to do for the man you think is awesome.
He tells the king to dress this man in fancy clothes, put a crown on him, and lead him around town on the royal horse.
And all these ideas Haman gave the king was right there in the Bible story. So it was pretty easy to write the lyrics. And Marco, he did an awesome job with the music.
Yes, that's what we gotta do for the man we think is awesome. Awesome, oh yeah!
King Xerxes is really loving all of Haman's ideas, and it seems like they're both on the same page. But then the king reveals who the man is, and surprise, surprise!
And by now I think you have guessed you are the man that I request to carry out this plan. Now go and make it so. I knew I could trust you, bro. Get my horse, take my crown, and lead him throughout all the town. I'll tell you who he is after this dramatic pause.
It's Mordecai!
Mordecai! Mordecai! Mordecai!
Mordecai!
Mordecai! Really? Well, who were you expecting?
Haman is stunned. The change-up really throws him off. It's like picking up a cup thinking it's your favorite drink. But it turns out to be tomato juice or something. Blech! Haman can't stand Mordecai, and now he just gave the king all these cool ideas about how to honor him. And to make things worse, King Xerxes is like,
These are great ideas, my man. Ha! Good thing you got some. That's what you gotta do for the man you think is awesome. Awesome.
yeah, the plan really backfired on Haman.
I think Mordecai probably felt surprised that he was being honored, especially because it had been a while since he saved the king's life.
For the man you think is awesome.
I think that shows that we don't do the right thing to be recognized by others. We do the right thing because it's the right thing, even if we never get recognized for it.
And again, God is not mentioned in any of this, but you can sense him in the background.
Why did the king have trouble sleeping?
Why did the attendant read the king the story of Mordecai?
Why did Haman walk in at that moment?
The writer of the book of Esther is trying to point us to God.
When Mordecai is put on the royal horse and led throughout the city by Haman, it's a turning point in the story. The power is starting to shift. Mordecai is being honored by the guy who wants him dead, so it's foreshadowing of what's coming next.
So while all this is going on with Haman and Mordecai, Esther is getting ready to talk to the king. The Bible says that Esther also fasted and prayed along with the rest of the Jewish people. That's right, she didn't eat cookies either. And after 3 days, she goes to see King Xerxes.
Esther did a very brave thing by going to see King Xerxes. If he wasn't in the mood for her company, he could have had her executed.
Executed.
But on this day, the king was happy to see her. He basically looks at her and says,
Ask me for whatever you want, and I'll give it to you.
And you would think this would be the perfect time for Esther to ask the king to save her people. Instead, she invites him and Haman to come to a special dinner she is making.
In that culture, it wasn't polite to come right out and ask for what you wanted. Instead, you make a small request and then make your real request later. Like, if you ask your mom and dad, can I have one more little scoop of ice cream? And then they give it to you, and then you're like, great, now can I have a pony?
There's a scene in the musical where Esther is getting ready for the dinner. I think this is a very important moment for Esther. She ends up burning the main course and all these other things start going wrong. She kind of has a meltdown. She's tired of never knowing how things will turn out. So she sings the song, I'm Saying Goodbye.
Mordecai thinks there's a plan, and that might be true, but I can't see what's next. And I feel better if I knew that everything was gonna be fine. But I don't have a guarantee that I will survive. And there are so many things I can't control. And I'm on my own, and I don't know the way to go. So if you can't show me a sign that every little thing is gonna be alright, then I'm not gonna go.
Saying goodbye is a little like a showdown between Esther and God.
No, I'm not gonna take one more step without knowing what's next. No, I'm not gonna make one more move if you can't prove that I won't die. I'm feeling the risk is just too high. So if you can't tell me the plan and how this ends, I'm saying goodbye. Oh yeah.
Esther feels like God is staying too quiet. And she basically says, I'm not gonna do this unless you tell me how this ends.
I can really understand Esther's frustration in this song. I have a lot of plans for my own life. I can imagine how it'd feel if tomorrow they all got turned upside down and I was out on a totally different path. It'd be hard to accept.
In the final line, Esther flips things around and says,
So here I go. It's time to take a step without knowing what's next. Here I go. Gonna make one more move, though I can't prove that I won't die. I know the risk is still so high, but I'm taking all my plans I've made, and I'm saying goodbye. Oh yeah.
and that's the moment where we see Esther decide to be a part of God's plan instead of her own. It's really powerful to see her make this brave choice, and it comes at a perfect time because as the song ends, the banquet begins.